Somehow, it's when I'm out in the most remote locations that I feel the most connected. Because there's just something about the natural world that speaks to the heart of humanity. We're in one of the most distinct wilderness areas in North America, in search of remnants of a bygone era. We're going to hit the trail and the water as we discover the grand nature of this beautiful place. So grab yourself a chair and pull it up to the fire, because this is Tiny Cabin Life. We're in the Superior National Forest in northern Minnesota, exploring a region that we don't typically visit. One of the major gems of this forest is the North Shore, 150 miles of shoreline along Lake Superior from Duluth, Minnesota, up to the Canadian border. But equally as magnificent is the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, which is 1.1 million acres of land which stretches across the northern part of the state and attracts nature lovers and explorers from around the globe. Many of the access points into the wilderness area lie outside the town of Ely, Minnesota. The terrain is classic Canadian shield, with rolling granite outcrops, scattered pines, and countless lakes which are separated by short portages or streams. The plan is to head into the Boundary Waters on this trip, and so we're staying at this beautiful off-grid cabin right outside of the wilderness area. We've got all day to get out and explore, so I figured we might as well start off the morning slow with a little campfire outside. Got to split up some of this wood and prepare some kindling, and so while I do, let me show you around the cabin a little bit. The property here is entirely off-grid, utilizing an impressive solar array, as well as a propane generator for topping off the batteries when solar isn't providing enough power. The camp, of course, has a fire ring, which we're going to be utilizing right now, and this beautiful deck for taking in the views of the forest. The interior of the cabin is absolutely stunning. The living room is incredibly cozy, with plenty of places to relax, and you even have this bird feeder outside the window, which constantly has visitors. Also within the living room is a propane fireplace, which provides heat to the cabin as well as a nice ambiance. On the other side of the room is the kitchen area, which has everything that you need. You've got a propane stove for doing your cooking, and even running water, which comes from the well outside. The sleeping quarters are up in the loft, where you have 2 queen-size beds and a nice little sitting area for doing some reading or having your coffee in the morning. And then last but certainly not least, inside the cabin you do have a full bathroom with a toilet, sink, and shower. Feels really nice to start the day out here by the campfire. I do not do this enough. Even out here in nature, I find myself rushing around and getting distracted. And so I think slowing down like this is a great way to set the pace for the day. Now, I do have some really fun plans for this trip here. We're right next to Ely, Minnesota, which is one of the major jumping off points for trips into the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. And so I figured we couldn't come to this area without doing some paddling. So we're gonna head out and explore this little chain of lakes in search of some old pictographs. We're talking rock art that dates back hundreds, if not thousands of years. And then I'm also planning to hit the trail and do some hiking, and then hopefully get out first thing tomorrow morning and do some fishing as well. Now, before I head out into the Boundary Waters, I definitely want to make sure I fuel up. So I'm going to whip up a little bit of breakfast and then we'll get after it. Dear God, thank you for this day. Bless this food and help us to be safe today. Amen. Well, I've got a pretty awesome breakfast burrito here. It's got sausage that actually has wild rice in it. There's hash browns, egg, of course, and some cheese and hot sauce. Oh, perfect way to fuel up for the day's adventure. That is so good. I don't think you can have a proper breakfast burrito without some sort of potatoes in there. And these hash browns, oh, they're so great. Now, with breakfast out of the way, it's time to head out for the day's adventure. Because the Boundary Waters is a wilderness area, you're not allowed to use any sort of motorized equipment at all. So because of that, I'm going to be taking my tiny pack raft out on this paddle. And it's just a little too tight to have Ellie with me, and so she's going to stay back here at the cabin, and then we'll take her out on a little hike afterwards. I'm kind of excited to get out and paddle with the pack raft. You know, for the longest time now, we've been using the larger raft with a trolling motor, but that's not allowed where we're going. So we're gonna have to use our own strength to get us out and back to the truck when we're done. Now, even though these pictographs are very well known, for their own protection, I'm not going to be disclosing the location of them. But I absolutely guarantee that if you want to get out and see them and do some digging, you will find where they're at. All right, we are headed down to the landing where we'll inflate the raft and start our paddle. It's going to be a little bit of a trip. We've got a couple miles to get out to the pictographs, and then it'll be a couple miles back, and there is a portage in between, so we've got a little journey ahead of us. After a short little hike, I reached the canoe landing, and it was time to gear up. As I mentioned before, this is my pack raft. It's a very cool little boat that packs down extremely small and light, making it a good option for taking along on backpacking trips or situations like this where you just don't feel like carrying in a full-size canoe.
first task here is to cross this lake. There's a portage on the other end of it, which is going to take us to our next lake, and that's where we will find the pictographs. But there are ways up there in that lake as well, so we definitely have a bit of a journey ahead of us.
One of the intriguing aspects of exploring a wilderness area is the sense of isolation that you feel. It's absolutely palpable when you enter into these spaces, knowing that your surroundings are untouched and that you're very much an outsider coming in.
Oh, I think I see our portage. It is straight ahead.
Portage is simply a trail or route used to carry boats, gear, and supplies between two bodies of water. Up here in the boundary waters, they range from either being a few dozen yards to up to a mile or more. But thankfully today, ours is very much on the shorter end of the spectrum.
I just love all the rocks and islands that you find up here in the boundary waters. I mean, take a look at this one. Not only do you have shrubs and little bushes growing on it, but you've got a full-blown tree. How did that thing start growing? Man, oh man, that's cool. All right, so now that we are in our second lake, we're gonna just keep paddling straight until we come to a narrow channel that has bigger rocks and taller cliffs. And once we get in there, that's where we're gonna wanna start looking for these pictographs. You know, I do so much hiking all the time that it's kind of fun to change things up on this one and have to reach our destination on the water. These are definitely muscles that I don't exercise very often, so it's certainly pushing me out of my comfort zone a bit.
After paddling for a while, I started to notice that our lake was narrowing a bit, and this cliffside here looked different than anything I'd seen on the water thus far. There they are, the pictographs I'd been looking for.
I love when you look at pictographs like this, you really get to try to guess what they are and what they mean. Obviously, we've got a human being right there, and directly below it is potentially a wolf or a fox or coyote, but then unmistakably to the right there is a moose. It is so crystal clear. And then just up to the right of the guy's head, I'm not sure exactly what those are, but it kind of looks like they would be fish. And a lot of times these pictographs were sending messages to fellow travelers that were coming through the area. And so it could be that this was alerting other people to the fact that there are fish here, there are also wolves, there are predators in the area, and there are moose, which can also be very aggressive. But honestly, my favorite thing about looking at pictographs like this is imagining a fellow human being standing right here, drawing this on there hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. It really just kind of connects me to the whole of humanity and honestly shows how fleeting life truly is. These people were here, they left their mark, and now they've been gone for a very long time. And eventually, we will too, as well.
After checking out the rock art, I decided to take a few moments to hydrate a bit and then just sit back and enjoy the beauty of this place.
Just love how peaceful and still it is out here. We're only a few miles into the wilderness, but man, I could be a million miles away right now.
Before setting off on the paddle back to the truck, I wanted to try to do a little bit of fishing.
Got one on. Nice. Just a little bass here, but he's a beautiful fish, that's for sure. Back in you go.
After snagging that bass, I realized that I'd better get home to the cabin to see Ellie, so I really just focused on paddling back towards the truck. Back at the cabin, Ellie enjoyed goofing off a little bit while I took a much needed rest after that paddle. Eventually, though, we set off to explore the property a little bit. The cabin is built on 40 acres of private land, and they've actually put together a few little trails around here. And so Ellie and I headed out to see what we could find.
I'll tell you, sometimes all anyone really needs is just to take a little walk through the woods. It's good for the soul. What do you think, Al? Which way should we go? Dovetail or wilderness? You wanna go this way? All right. Dovetail Trail it is. Ooh, it looks like there's a cabin up here. This is on their land, so I have to imagine it's theirs. Well, this is definitely another little cabin. They've got an outhouse over there. It does have a sign that says private property, keep out, but the trail leads right here. In fact, there's a sign for the trail right next to the cabin. So this must belong to the owners of the log cabin we're staying in. There's even an old little fire ring. This is such a cool little camp. I wonder why it's not being used right now.
After our hike, the sun had started to set, and so it was time to head back to the cabin and whip up some dinner. Dear Lord, thank you for just an awesome day. Thank you for the gift of what I get to do. It's truly a blessing. Amen. Just some good old-fashioned pasta and meatballs. I do have pesto and sun-dried tomatoes in here, so it's going to have a little extra flavor to it, and I can't wait to dig in.
That's no reason to hold a pagan celebration. I hear your people are coming to town dancing and singing and making merry.
For 1,000 years, we gypsies have buried our dead like that. I couldn't break the custom, even if I wanted to.
I think The Wolfman is easily my favorite Universal monster movie. It's just so eerie in every single way. The way they filmed it and put it together, and the music, everything, it's just frightening. It's definitely a good cabin movie, that's for sure.
After enjoying some coffee and just easing into the day, it was finally time to set off on the final adventure of this trip. I'm heading down to a nearby stream which leads into a lake that should have some really good fishing. And since this one isn't in the wilderness boundary, I'll be able to take out the raft with a trolling motor to make things a little easier. We'll be taking our boat against the current up into a lake that is set back in this valley here. This is a public boat launch, so I feel pretty good about my odds of actually being able to push through the stream back into the lake and do some fishing.
Man, is it beautiful back here. I love that we're making our way through this valley, and somewhere up there is our lake. It's very, very cool. Looks like we got a little beaver lodge up here. I was wondering when we'd see some evidence of these guys. This seems like a perfect home for them.
This channel here is absolutely stunning. As you can see, there are fairly steep hills that lead to and surround the lake that we're going to try to fish. It's definitely a unique feature that you don't always see here in Minnesota.
All right, we made it to the lake. And man, is it gorgeous. I just love the spruce trees up on the shoreline there. And again, just how the hills tower above us down here. It's so cool. All right, let's see if there's any fish in here. Got one on. Whoa! Ooh, he's fighting me. He is fighting me. Come on. No, no, no. Oh, no, you don't. Look at that bass! Get... All right! That's a real nice sized bass right there. Heck yeah. All right. Got him with the old hookup bait this time. It's another nice looking bass. All right. So this bait right here, I actually got from my father-in-law, Riley's dad. It's really great. What you do is you cast it out and you just sort of like pop it a couple of times every now and then, and the motion of it in the water, the fish just love it. And yeah, that bass clearly wanted a bite, and we snagged him. It was pretty cool. Got one again. Man, they're loving the hookup bait. Oh, poor guy's all caught up in the weeds. Let's get you off. A little bit smaller this time, but still fun to catch.
Well, this ended up being a pretty awesome trip. A lot of it was spent out on the water, but with winter just around the corner, I'm really grateful to have been able to do that.
I want to give a special shout out to our patrons for generously donating to this channel, but to all of you who watch these videos, thank you so much. You're the reason we get to do this on a weekly basis, and I am so incredibly grateful. But that's going to wrap up this extended road trip that we've been on. We did 3 videos here in northern Minnesota, 2 on the North Shore, and then 1 here in Ely, and man, it was a blast. But I'm really looking forward to getting home and seeing the girls, so it's about time I pack out of here and hit the road. I'll see you guys next week. God bless.